So without further ado, we have Dr. Dain. Welcome, Dain.
Speaking of cool deals, hi, Julia.
Hey.
How you
What's
doing?
going on?
Hi. Hi, everybody around the world. I hope you know what books are. There you go.
I do too. That would be really a good thing on book day.
Yeah, exactly. I have wildlife in the background that you may be contributing to our conversation today.
All right. Are they like wild peacocks?
Yeah, well, as wild as a domesticated peacock can be.
Oh, right.
They're chubby, happy peacocks. Let's put it that way.
Cool. That's awesome. So today I've talked to you about quite a few of your books. I've never had a conversation with you about how you wrote children's books. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, here's an interesting thing that I've noticed. A lot of people, whatever career or whatever they're looking at, they often think that there was something that a person had from childhood that they then built upon or something, so they can't do it. That is rubbish.
Right.
And the way the first children's book came about was my friend Justine, who we work with, she was pregnant. And I tapped into this little creature and I wrote her this text. And it was actually to the baby. And makes me cry just thinking about it. It was so beautiful. And it's basically the text that is in the Baby Unicorn Manifesto. And it's interesting to put manifesto in a children's book because you usually think of people with their rant on the nature of reality, but in a sense it kind of is. It's like here's a world of possibilities you are stepping into. We will be here for you. We will have your back, and all you have to do is choose and know that no choice is wrong. And seeing and acknowledging, it's an interesting thing because in writing that, I tapped into the being and acknowledged the beauty of the being that I saw, that I perceived. And I wanted to put that into words. And so I did. And then I thought, and I and several other people were like, every child around the world needs to hear this. And so we chose to make a children's book. And then you add Katerina Valentin, who is a project manager and leader and force of nature of magnitude. And, and we went through several illustrators, and there was one that it was kind of like, no, it didn't have enough liveliness, so we went through several, and one I hit and I just went, yep, definitely her. Mm-hmm. And so it's all of these books are co-creative efforts with a lot of people. We often get credit as the author, and I'm grateful for that. And I also want to acknowledge that it takes a village to actually get a book out there. It doesn't have to, but I find it's a very rich experience when it does.
Yeah, it definitely it does take a village, and there is something really special. I mean, I have the Baby Dragon book here, and I won't give too much away, but I just I feel like a kindergarten teacher right now. But the illustrations are really powerful, and they really match the energy of the words in the book. I'm going to read this page. This was the page I was looking for, and of course I opened right up to the page I wanted to read. So it says, "And then the ashes turn into thousands upon thousands of fireflies. They dance around the baby dragon, tickling, teasing, and suddenly the baby dragon's wings fold out from its back, wide and shimmering. 'I have wings,' it says. 'I have wings.'" And look at the energy and the glowing in the illustration. But it's like God, it's like there's 1,000 words, there's universes in just what I just read, and they're healing nourishing, nurturing universes that we all needed as kids. And the kids who get this book as kids are very lucky, and we get it as adults and it heals us too. But it's really quite a different children's book because it's very energetically healing.
That. And what's interesting is, so the Baby Unicorn Manifesto was about the acknowledgement that this child is bringing beauty and magic into the world. Now, the interesting part is the child that I wrote it for. There's another interesting thing about the child that I wrote it for. It's like every time she sees me, she's just like, Dain, you know, and she's so excited. It's so adorable. And I adore this kid. But she actually turned out to be much more of a baby dragon than a baby unicorn. Right. And so the book was written from, what is the gift in that too? And so, you know, there are certain kids that just want to light the world on fire. You know, they want to breathe fire out of their mouth and set everything on fire. But we're so conditioned to make that wrong. But what if we look from a different perspective? What's the gift? What's the power underneath it? And how do we, from a very young age, allow these kids to not have to shut it off or shut it down, which is exactly that passage that you mentioned, where the baby dragon has it's so fucking cute, this book. Oh my God. And so is this, all of them are, they're amazing. But the baby dragon is just like started to use a little bit of its fire and set stuff on fire, right? And they turn into ashes, and the baby's like, did I do that? Oh shit. You know, and it doesn't say, oh shit, I added that was an adult thing for a children's book. And then, you know, as the story progresses, the ashes turn into these sparkles, and then that's when the baby dragon gets its wings. And it really is from this place of the desire to acknowledge the uniqueness of each being, starting at a very young age. But like you said, reading these books as adults, it's like, it's actually healing, because we realize what we should have been told, and we realize that there is that voice in the world that is speaking to us, that is contributing to us, that is acknowledging us, and we can heal from that. We can heal our inner children, let's say, and also have a good time along the way, because it's so beautiful and it's so energetically congruent.
Totally. That's so neat. It's fascinating to me how many different ways of healing ourselves there are. I mean, in a way, that's kind of your life's work. Like, you're like, you know, you have the body whispering book, and that is so healing with your relationship with your body. And it's more even than what I can just fit into the word healing. It's something else too. But and then, you know, you have the ESB work and the SOP, and that's another level of healing for your being. And it's just kind of dawning on me, like, that just how endless it is, and how many opportunities and possibilities we have to change our lives and change the things that are really hard and ugly and shameful. And there are ways of doing that.
Yeah. And there's so many. And also the thing embodied with and or beyond that is to embrace the beautiful, because we spend so much time on trying to heal what we think is wrong or what we've decided is wrong. And such a huge amount of the time, it's an acknowledgement that it's not wrong. You're just different. You look through different eyes. And that alone becomes something that, because anytime we acknowledge our being, we grow in that, and we become more of that, and we get out of wrongness, and we have a sense of communion with everything, because that's our natural state. So all of these books create a space where you can access more of what you truly are. And even when you're talking about it, for me, the sense, like, even if you try to say it's healing, it's like you said, it's more than that. Right. And I think one of the marks of a great book is when you can't put into words, what did you get from it? or what will somebody else get from it? And people are always trying to go, I got this and you'll get this. And there's a certain space for that. But when it's something that touches you on a really deep, really, really fundamental level, you can't express that to someone else because it's not about the words, and the words don't translate. And so and the very first book I wrote was called Embodiment, the manual you should have been given when you were born. And it was so cool because I'd been doing a lot of work with bodies because, as you know, I do this energetic work, and I'd been doing a lot. And there was this sort of large period of discovery before choosing to write the book of, there were so many things that became so plainly available to the people that were taking my classes. I wanted people outside of the classes to be able to have access to it. And so I wrote Embodiment, the manual, the manual you should have been given when you were born. And I'm laughing because, so I still remember this. We were in Australia. We had the books printed and the first box arrives, right? And I'm so excited. My first book, it's published, it's written. It was actually my second book. I actually wrote a book that I just put together with binding back when I was in chiropractic school. But this is a real book, okay? And I get this thing and I look at the back cover and it's got me naked with a palm leaf because I had basically on a dare, I had done this strip tease and was here naked behind a palm leaf, and this picture was taken. That's the picture that Gary and Simone decided I should have on it for my headshot. I was like, it looks more like would you like to give me headshot? But okay, that's fine. That's a different way of, and it was so wonderful because it took all the significance away of everything. I mean, you can't have that picture on the back of a book and make yourself significant. And nobody else can make you significant. They can do a lot of judgment or lust, either one, that's fine. But it was so interesting. What a gift to have that be there on my first book. And then after that, I wasn't able to make any of the books significant. And what it did was it created a place where I could receive more the gift that the book was, and not try to structure myself like, I have done something good, so now I must pretend to be this. I was just like, hey, I'm me. I might be naked on the next cover. I don't know. Nice to see you, But it's been an amazing gift because the desire with the books is to contribute something to people, because we have these conversations in classes, and based on what's going on for everybody, or whatever the class is, where a different subject will come up, and we can't necessarily go on the deep dive. But if we take a thread from here and a thread from here and a thread from here, plus our own awareness and the conversations we've had with people, we can put that all together in a book in a way that somebody can follow it from start to finish and get a transformation, which is what the books are really about.
Yeah. Going back to the baby unicorn manifesto and dragon and stardust. Sorry, my words are not good right now.
I understand, sister.
I was there with you. So
we haven't even talked about stardust yet.
But Pragya is saying, this is cool. This is an acknowledgement of what you just said about you can't even put it into words. She said, my 4-year-old nephew loved baby dragon and drew and colored dragons for days. He slept with the book for a long time.
Wow. That is an acknowledgement. That's so cool.
Wow. That is so cool. And that's the thing, there's no way to put that into words.
Truly. And I think it was Emerson that there's a long quote, but in it is about having the respect and admiration of children is one of the greatest elements of success. And I have that in my point of view also. It's like, if kids like you, you're probably a pretty cool person. Like, if they naturally gravitate toward you and they feel safe around you and not judged, and they want more of your presence, that's one of the indications that you're headed, from my point of view at least, and feel free to anybody have your own, but from my point of view, that's one of the acknowledgments that you're heading in the direction of more possibilities and more of what a being is. Because kids don't put up with bullshit. We teach them how to. And so they naturally gravitate toward, see, words.
Yeah.
They
Almost-
gravitate. Yeah. Hey, what are you doing? I'm gravitating. What are you doing? Trying to figure out what you're doing. Okay. And put it into one word. Okay. They naturally gravitate toward someone who is not in judgment of them and has a level of caring and kindness for them. And they just like them, and I feel so blessed. It's like I love interacting with kids around the world, and I love interacting with kids in access classes where they just, it's like you can tell that they have a sense that somebody sees them. Because when I look at a kid, I don't do what most adults do. I look at the being and I acknowledge the small body. But what I also do is there's this way, and I want to say this for anybody who might acknowledge they can do it too. And what I do is I acknowledge your being, but I acknowledge it with the space of the awareness of this reality in this world, how it looks and the structure of it, and probably how their parents view it, because I can get a bit of a sense of that, but I don't focus on it. But then I acknowledge them as a being and acknowledge that they can manipulate all this and they can choose to create from a different space than any other being in the universe knows is possible, because they truly are a unique creature. And I be that with them every time I'm around them. I be that with them. And I say I be that because it's just something I'm being at the time. But we all can if we wouldn't try to put them in the boxes that, and that's really what the books are about also, is here's an acknowledgement of your being. By the way, if you happen to be a little different here, you're still not wrong. You are miraculous too.
Right. Whew. That was how so the first book that I ever, it was actually kind of my first introduction to Access, was in 2011, right when Being You, Changing the World came out. And I ordered the book right away, and it was rural Canada, so it took like 2-3 weeks to arrive. It was treacherous.
2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
You're like, let's see, we got electricity, and then I got my Being You book. Just kidding.
Yeah, kind of. And I got this book, and I started reading it. It was like eating candy. I was like, whoa, I just want to eat more and more and more and more candy, because it was that set of tools, and I'd never. I had been all through high school. When I was in the 7th grade, my mom was reading The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And I was like, that's so cool. But I didn't want the other kids at school to like ask me questions about it. I didn't feel like, so I covered it in dinosaur wrapping paper and took it with me to school. And I was reading The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And it was great, but, so I would use the tools. And one of the tools was, just if you want something, just say it over and over. So I was like, magic, magic, magic. And I would just walk around everywhere I went saying that, using my tool. And then when I came across Being You, it was like, it was a manual almost. It was like the Hogwarts manual of tools, because the other tools that I got from other modalities and books and Eckhart Tolle sitting on the park bench meditating, and it was like he said that everything we needed to do could be done by breathing, and I'm like
I can see you walking around. Magic, 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 magic. You're like, hello, Julia? What?
That was pretty much.
Totally. Girl, I know the feeling. Exactly. I read all those things too.
Totally.
Oh, goodness.
Totally. And
That's
it's
awesome.
like, yeah, it's like, when is this gonna work? I mean, that was the best thing that I found. So I'm like, come on. And then Being You, Changing the World came into my hands, and I was like, and I like read it in like a day or, you know, everything.
Yeah.
And I just needed those tools so
Yeah.
badly.
Yeah. And also, that's the thing also with, and I, you know, the Being You book, it's an interesting thing because it was created, the rough sketch of it, if you will, was created from transcripts from energetic synthesis of being classes. And then I met, and I had 3 different people I had tried to write it, and they were like, ESB is this, and it's this, and you do this. And I either fell asleep or got angry reading the transcripts of it.
Like a
And
science
then,
textbook.
what's that?
Was it like a
Yeah.
science textbook
Yeah,
kind of?
only worse because there was no science. That would have at least interested me, you know? And I'm like, I cannot be this boring. Please, somebody read this and tell me this is not me being boring, okay? And yeah. And then I met Katerina Valentin, who had written a book that was about this teenager that was also a spy. And she had only written the first chapter, but I read it and I went, this conveys energy. I asked her, will you write the ESB book? And she was like, but English is my second language. I'm like, but apparently energy is your first. I'm like, we can work on the grammar. I said, but the way you convey energy. So she took these transcripts. She sent me 20 pages of what are now the note to reader, basically the different tools that are taken out that you can just read those on your own and change your world. And I cried. It was so beautiful. It was like somebody put into words, and most of those words were my words. You know, it was like somebody, whoever that was, but she took it and put it together in such a beautiful way that could be just drunk in, you know, like nectar for your soul, you know?
Exactly.
And I was like, this is what I wanted. And so unfortunately, I was such a perfectionist that it took a lot longer for that book to get out than it should have. If you're somebody who writes books, get it to good enough and then boot it out the door. Okay. I just got to tell you that from personal experience, but it was so beautiful. And then when we created the whole book, because she and I would go back and forth, we went back and forth for months to create this book.
Yeah.
And when we put it all together and I read through the whole thing, I read through it in almost one sitting. Took me a little over a day. And I was like, somebody could read this and go from twisted and bent to I'm alive and I'm a gift. And that's what I wanted to create. And boy, did it. And so it's an interest. It's amazing to me how dynamically because if you read great poetry, it conveys such energy and usually in such few words. And this was a way of conveying this magic that I had seen was possible in Access classes, but in words. And something that's basically phenomenally indescribable. Like you read that book and somebody says, what'd you get from it? It's like, well, I'm just different. I just like me more. I'm not wrong. And some of the things people have said, I'm not wrong. I'm not alone. And I know it. And once again, just knowing that there is someone else out there who gets it, someone else out there who gets us is such an amazing gift. And then adding the tools of access so that or a peacock.
They're
Adding
excited.
that was an exclamation point. That was a peacock exclamation point. But adding the tools of access so that you open up this space of possibility and then simultaneously you clear what doesn't allow you to embody it in the moment and go forward from there.
That's right.
What a gift.
That's exactly what it does. And kind of from every angle, because you talk about the potency. I mean, one chapter is the potency of caring, you know, and you talk about, because when I read that chapter, it's like it was the guide and the license for what I wanted to do and be with people that I didn't know how, because you're basically your friend, I think it was in that chapter, your friend didn't like kind of canceled on a lunch.
Yeah.
And you got mad. And instead of like ignoring them or what we would probably do now is ghost them or whatever kind of thing, react, or just withdraw. You got vulnerable and you were like, it hurts because I value you and I value this. And that's how I wanted to be, but I didn't know how. Nobody ever gave me that as an option. It wasn't something I had thought of. So when it was there, just one chapter of, one topic of 50,000 topics in the book, it's like, oh, I can breathe. I have a way of handling a situation as me that I wanted to handle as me my whole life, but I didn't know how.
That so well put. It's exactly that, and that theme runs through all of the books. It's like it gives you the awareness of what handling it, depending on the situation in the book. But we talk about this caring chapter, and it gives you the awareness of what's true for you, and then also gives you permission and invitation to handle a situation as you, or live in a particular area of your life as you. But then also it gives you oftentimes the clearing of what's not you. And even in that, just in that moment of everything that I bought that doesn't allow me to recognize that this is caring and this is me, for example. And that's paraphrasing, but even in that moment, your awareness goes to all the places of what you bought caring as that it isn't. And just that awareness, it's like, because the thing is, we're not stupid. I know we all think we are, and I know that, we jokingly talk about that, but we're not. We're really friggin' aware. And so that's the other thing the books acknowledge, is that we're aware we're not wrong. We're different. We're not wrong. And here's how you can live it. Here's how you can be it. And the greatest joy in life is getting to actually live as you.
Wow. Yeah, the world needs that.
We're talking about being you changing the world, by the way, for whoever asked in the comments.
This is what the book looks like. It's a great intro to Access. If you're new, it's a great book to give a friend who maybe is curious. It's a great book to begin, from my point of view. And it's great for those of us who have been doing Access for a long time too, because you get it different every time. So Dain, can you talk about Baby Stardust a little bit and how you developed that?
Yeah, well, that book came about from the awareness. Once again, I was talking with Katerina about creating something that gets kids to have an acknowledgement that the earth is a gift. And so they will start from a very young age knowing it and making this beautiful planet their home. And, that's not something almost any of us were taught. And if we have it now, it's because we've demanded that we become aware of it on our own. And so the Baby Stardust is it also is its magical journey about how, out in the universe, there's nothing, and then there's a spark, and supernovas and such, and how the earth is made up of everything that came from the stars and the rest of the universe. And that what the earth requires is this spark to be alive. And the end of the book, I don't know if it's a spoiler alert if you tell the end of a children's book, but the beautiful, you have to get to the very last page, and it says, let me tell you a secret, dear reader, that spark is you. And that's what our kids are. They are this spark that has the capacity to bring a different liveliness to our planet. And what we're doing is going to be handed to them. Now, what I see when I see kids who come to Access is I see they are fully capable of it. They're fully capable of taking the mantle and creating something different. We just need to give them the tools and the encouragement and stop trying to make them as stupid as we were made by our parents.
Exactly. Whew. Wow. Huh. Words. Words.
Those damn words.
Oh, words. Wow, Dain. Gosh, it's just I don't know, something is changing with the earth. I don't know, maybe it's always been like that, but maybe it's just something I'm looking at differently. But I don't know if I'm supposed to get political on here, but oh well. I was watching Kennedy's Earth Day event yesterday, and you know, just the things they were talking about how when we are stewards of the earth, when we look after the earth, you know, how we win as humanity, you know, and how when we dishonor the earth, we're actually shaming ourselves. I thought that was very cool to be heard on a political platform.
Yeah.
I was bawling for pretty much the entire thing because I was like, we've been asking for somebody who actually cares about the earth to be in politics. And, you know, the whole thing, it was about just honoring ourselves by honoring the earth. And so I'm really glad that there is a children's book to sort of light that spark. And because for me growing up, I cared about the earth, but I was like, I am going to recycle, you know, and I am going to, you know, raise money for the kids in Africa so that they can build a well for water, or, you know, that was the only thing that I knew how to do. But, and which was great, but it's like there's an energetic receiving from the earth that, you know, maybe if a kid reads the Baby Stardust, it will open that door to for them to have that energetic gifting and receiving
Well,
with the earth.
that's actually far more vital than recycling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I get, you know, your point. It's like once again, these were the only tools I had. I have this desire. How do I actualize it in a way that I know is actually possible? And I think that's one of the other things is we see things that are a step in the direction, but it's such a tiny step that it's going to take so many billions of those steps. And it really doesn't, and once again, recycling is great. But what we need to recycle and undo is our judgments, you know.
Right.
And you mentioned the receiving from the earth, which is one thing, but and may I say that it's the way that we be with the earth that transforms everything. And as you're speaking about right now, there is something different. You know, the fact that Kennedy can have that conversation running for office, and how many of us seekers out there are going, hell yeah, I would so like someone in office that actually it isn't about being conservative or liberal. It's about us as a planet and a country and a people, as us as people, us as a country, us as a planet, and none of those are excluded in it. And also who has brilliant actualizable ideas for how to do these things because he's done it. He cleaned up the pollution in the Hudson River that was killing it, and several others, rivers, lakes, oceans around the world, with organizations he started. And I hope y'all realize this is not political from me. There's actually somebody who has solutions that make it, once again, and here's the part, that make it greater for everybody. That also give us a sustainable living earth, because unless we change what the fuck we're doing, we're not going to have a sustainable living earth. Hence the Baby Stardust Manifesto, which is about starting children with the awareness that they and the earth are magical, and the earth requires their magic if it's going to keep going and being able to be the magic that it is. And one of the things we love about kids is they still believe in magic, and they still believe in miracles, and they think everything should be that way, and then it doesn't show up that way, and then they get disappointed, and then they feel like something must be wrong, and then they feel like the wrong thing must be them, except it very seldom is.
Exactly. Wow, that's so great. Yeah, and I like what you said too about like it's not political. Like let's clean up the river and let's honor the earth for the Republicans, for the Democrats, for everybody. Let's do it for all of them. They're all included. We're all included, you know?
Totally. And how could you not want to undo the pollution? How could you, unless you are somebody who believes that you're going to make more money from either something you have a share in or something you own or something like that. Those are the only people who don't want to clean up all the pollution. But the other thing that is shown, and I'm actually glad we're having this conversation. I know that theoretically this is about books, but it actually is. But it's because all of these things are included in our lives. It's like, if you don't have clean drinking water, you're not going to be very interested in reading a book. You know what I'm saying? Sorry. It's like, hello, you know? And so who would not get behind that except the people that believe that there will be less in their pocket or less money in their pocket? Except one of the things that he has shown is before cleaning up, I think it was the Hudson River, before cleaning up the Hudson River, the fisheries were dying. People were getting sick if they would eat the fish. And it was only the quote unquote poor people who would fish there and eat the fish and get sick. After cleaning up the river, they have one of the most thriving fishing industries of anywhere in the United States, which means, and all the companies that had to clean up stuff, they had to pay money. They had to change their way of functioning, but they didn't go out of business. They're doing better now. This is better for all of us.
Totally. Nobody lost. Every single party won.
Yes.
Wow.
And on a side note, there are lots of books available as audiobooks. There you go. I just saw that comment, so I wanted to acknowledge that. And also the Being You book. If you go to beingyoubook.com, there's a download that's about 55 minutes long of me reading the intro and first chapter. Please go get that and just put it on in the background of whatever you're doing. It will lighten things up. I used to do that. I would walk into a meeting or I'd walk into an intro night, especially where back in the day, it was like there was a lot of people doing a lot of holding on to, like sitting there going, and so it took a while for me to acknowledge to them, I'm not here trying to change you. I'm not trying to take anything. I'm here to try to contribute to you. And what would happen is I would play the Being You book really low while I was up on stage. And it created this energy of like this universe in my back. And that is embodied in it. But that's part of the beauty of the entire book. It's such an acknowledgement of you, as is the Baby Unicorn Manifesto, the Baby Dragon Manifesto, and the Baby Stardust Manifesto. Like they're an acknowledgement for kids. Plus, they're fun to read. Oh, one of the things about the Baby Unicorn Manifesto, somebody that used to work with us, she had the books on her dining room or her living room table. Coffee table. Thank you. Good. I don't drink coffee, so I don't have a table for that. She had them on her coffee table, and her teenage sons would come in, and they would have their friends with them, and they would literally read this book out loud to each other. How freaking cool is that?
That's crazy. That's so
Isn't that
great.
awesome?
Yes.
So good. That's another acknowledgement of these things.
Totally. It really is. So we have some questions in the comments about what are these books. So as Dain just said, there are 3 books. I don't have the other 2 because I went to go get them, but I realized Anthony gave them to a little kid. So I was like, damn it, not damn it. Yeah. So, but so the first book is called The Baby Unicorn Manifesto. The second book, which I have right here, is called The Baby Dragon Manifesto. And the third book, the one Dain was talking about with the Earth, is called The Baby Stardust Manifesto. So we refer to them as the Baby Unicorn Manifesto trilogy. What do we call them?
Manifestobooks.com, babe.
Manifestobooks.com. There you have it.
You go check them out.
Words.
Mhm.
Yeah. And they're also translated in 15 languages, the kids' books.
Yeah.
The baby unicorn, and I can't
Because
say it.
people have kids all around the world.
They do.
They want to, make their lives and jobs a little easier. One of the other things is there was a lady who had, I think her kid was like 4 years old. And every time she would get upset, they started having this thing together, which I think is so friggin' cute and adorable and just awesome. What started happening is her daughter got really upset, like inconsolable in the way little kids do sometimes,
Mhm.
And so
Yep.
her mom could not figure out anything to do. So she just started reading the book out loud, basically at her daughter, and her daughter immediately calmed down. And so next time her daughter got upset, but not quite that upset, thank goodness, she started reading it at her daughter, and her daughter calmed down. That happened 3 or 4 times. And what would happen then, if they were at home, the daughter, once she started noticing herself getting upset, she would say, "Mommy, read the dragon book," And so she would sit with her mom, and her mom would read the dragon book. And she said you could feel her body totally relax. Or sorry, the unicorn book.
Yeah.
And she said you could feel her body totally relax. I'm like, wow, that's what occurs when we get our being acknowledged. That's what occurs when something is there that actually acknowledges us underneath the drama we happen to be choosing.
That's the word that I wanted before. That was a little bit greater than healing. It's having your being acknowledged.
Yep. You see the peacocks?
Aw.
Got all 3 of them. Hi, guys.
Hello to my friends.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on today, Dain.
Thank you. This has been fun. And I agree with Gary. You are great at this. This is really cool.
Thanks, Dain. It's wonderful. And it's like, I have all of the, there's just,
Wow.
This is just some of the Access Consciousness books. And they're just so, everyone, I was saying earlier, we had Susanna talking about pragmatic psychology and how she applies it there, and Marilyn Bradford with Right Recovery and how she applies it there, and everybody applies it so different, and there's just so many ways we can take that in and change our lives from all these different books.
And that's really why we wrote them. A lot of people think you write books to make money. I've never had that point of view.
No.
For me, it's always been that gifting people a new lens to look through, but in a way that they can have with them, refer back to, and be nurtured by and contributed to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Julia. This was fun.
Right. Awesome. How does it get better? Thanks, Dain.
Exactly. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.